Boom. Welcome back, guys. This is the Tech Chief channel. And yeah, I got Ryan over here again. Obviously, me and Ryan, we're collabing again for like the third time in the last 10 days because our course that we're doing together with Elevate Cyber and DD, we're closing that tonight at midnight. And we had to do the ye old smashing of the bottle on the side of the ship and do like a what's the fancy word, Ryan?
I don't know, man. I'm just trying to hope that I'm just hoping that I don't lose all of my crypto on this ship, on this boating accident. It could happen. So,
I was on a boating accident. I was on a boat this weekend that happened to be in an accident. This was like my third boating accident this year. Yeah, I know. It's a tragedy. So, guys, we're here to talk to you tonight about kind of the same thing that I was talking about on my stream on Friday. And me and Ryan kind of talked about it last Thursday, but we didn't cover basically the whole stream, spending like we didn't spend more than like maybe 10 or 15 minutes on this in the last stream. But with that being said, I do think it's important because the outlook of the economy right now is, well, it's not the best to say the least. And I have an article I'm going to pull up for you guys, yet another one, just so you guys know I'm not crazy here. And me personally, I don't feel, guys, that like, it's all doom and gloom. Everything's going to zero. The economy is just destroyed. I don't feel like that. I just feel like this is just an inevitable bump in a cycle of basically an endless cycle based off of how our monetary system works. Although we're not here to talk about the monetary system specifically. So you guys check this article out right here. This is from CNBC. Okay. And the title, obviously, CEO Outlook dims sharply, with more than half expecting a recession ahead, survey shows. So, guys, the survey that they did in this article, they basically went around and surveyed a bunch of different CEOs of really big companies in the nation. And about, I think it was like 58%, but about like 60%, 57% it says right there. About 57% of CEOs are basically saying that either A, we have a recession like right around the corner, or they didn't say this, but they implied B, we're basically already in a recession and nobody really knows yet. Because one thing to note about recessions is technically you don't really know that you're in a recession until after it's already started, right? And why does this article have anything to do with cybersecurity or software development? Well, guys, what happens when recessions come about? Recessions are usually coupled with layoffs, just kind of like we saw right when the Crab 19, Crab 20, EPIDMIC, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? That thing that happened 2 years ago that basically shut the entire planet down. We saw a lot of layoffs when that happened, and we saw layoffs in the past in like 2008 housing crisis when there was a recession. And a lot of people are afraid that if they haven't already lost their job, because I mean, I'm sure some people that might be listening to us might have lost a job, right? If they haven't already lost it, some people might be afraid that they could be losing it. And one thing I wanted to drive home, and me and Ryan were talking backstage before we got on. One thing I wanted to drive home is, yeah, if you're in IT, that doesn't automatically guarantee you, like, okay, you have a 0% chance of ever getting laid off. Okay. But I believe, and I always have, as someone who has been through not the best economical times and was still employed, I believe that if you do work in IT, specifically, you're not just somebody there answering like phone calls for people when they come and like technical support. Okay, specifically something of value. And okay, don't get offended. Not that technical support people aren't of value, right? But if you have something of larger value that majority people just can't do, so like you're a software engineer or you're a cybersecurity expert of one fashion or the other, the chances of you being laid off in tough times are a lot less. Okay. Now I can talk and give a couple reasons why, but since I've been already up here blabbing for 4 minutes, Ryan, would you like to pontificate on that? Do you feel the same way? Do you feel differently than me on that, or what?
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. So there's always going to be a kind of hierarchy of like when the business says like, what they're going to cut first, right? It's not going to be random. It's going to be, they're going to cut first, the things that they feel like they can cut back on. And, you know, obviously I know Josh talks about this all the time, but if you really think about how many different ways you interface with code, right? It's like you wouldn't be able to live your life in 2022 without code. Like literally almost everything you touch has something to do with code, right? And so obviously someone has to build that, someone has to maintain that, but also someone has to protect that as well, because wherever there's code, there's potential vulnerabilities. And another thing I want to say on the layoffs as well is that even if you are a developer right now, or you are in cybersecurity right now, the people that will get cut first, even within those fields, if say it gets worse and it comes to that, they're going to cut the people that are kind of stagnant, people that aren't really on that growth trajectory. So if you are investing in yourself and you're learning and you're improving, and people are going to notice that, and they're going to be much more likely to cut the other people first and hold on to you as long as possible.
Yeah, agreed. And that was actually one of the points I was going to make, was like software, computers, like every single industry requires them to work, right? I don't care. I know Matt W came in here like a year ago and was like, well, not if you're a painter, but, and I was like, all right, Matt, when you go and order your paint,
how do you get your clients?
How do you get your clients? When you go to order your paint, how do you do that? When you need to do payroll, how do you do that? And he was like, oh, okay. All right, I got you. But yeah, one thing to know, guys, is IT is everything. It is all fields, which is why something I've always said, if you're going to be in IT, like if you're going to be a developer, specifically a developer, because you have to write like business logic, like you're pretty much, you have to be in every industry. If you end up being a developer at a telecom company, well, you're going to have to know like the telecom industry, right? If you end up being a developer for like a restaurant business, you're going to have to know the restaurant business, okay? It is what it is. I would say that since IT is embedded in everything, I think if you're, most likely when the economy, if and when it turns into a SHIT show, then yeah, if you're like, let's just say you're a developer for a company that makes software for restaurants, you're probably going to be a little bit less needed than if you were a developer for like an insurance company, something that people are forced to buy, right? And I know you kind of made that point too, but that's something to note, guys. Ruthless Viking says, good evening, gentlemen. What up, dude? Good to see you. Christian Soda says, good afternoon. Yes, it's actually kind of nighttime for me now too. Ruthless says, hi, I would like to ask you guys, I can't at the moment get into developer direction. I intended to get on it, but to win some time in coding, should I start with my coding first? Learn the language? ? Thank you. Or you want in the chat. Okay, so I actually had a video about this. I don't remember what the exact name of the video was, but if you go on my channel and you go back and you go look at, I think it's developers who, every young coder should do this in their life. That might be it. If it's not that one, and it's one like either a little bit before or after it. But point I'm trying to make here is, you're not the first person to ask me that question. I've heard that question like 1,000 times. That's nothing negative towards you, but don't worry about what language it is that you used as a tool to start learning to code. All right, you need to think about it as if that language is literally a tool, and you're going to use that to learn the fundamentals of programming. Because a lot of languages, when you start coding, you're going to come to find this. A lot of languages are pretty like really similar. Okay, so don't focus on like what language do I need to learn. Focus on how do I learn how to code? Because at the end of the day, programming languages, all they do is they make computers do certain things. And you want to be able to learn how to do that, not learn the specific language as much. But to give you like an easier answer, and Ryan, you probably got one too, but to give you an easy answer, I mean, I tell people to start with like web development. JavaScript should be pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, I would just double down on everything that you teach in your course, which is start with basic web development, the building blocks of the internet, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Don't, resist the urge to rush into the JavaScript frameworks or the cool and flashy things that are popular right now. Just start with the fundamentals, start with the basics, and then maybe after that, go to some kind of more of like a back-end language and, get into some of the logical type of programming stuff. But one thing I do want to say real quick before I forget, while we were on the topic of the whole economy thing, I know a lot of people are starting to get nervous now when they see things like that on the news and they see the prices going up due to inflation and all of that stuff, right? If that is something that is causing a lot of fear in you right now, and that's kind of holding you back, what I would say is that, Josh, and let me know if you agree or disagree, but definitely for my field, I always tell people it's going to take at least 8 months if you're a little bit fast, 8 to 12 months to go from complete beginner to where you are ready to actually get hired on as your first job in cybersecurity. I'm sure it's something similar for development as well. And like you were saying earlier, how, once they start talking about the recession, we're already in the recession, right?
Uh-huh.
So if that is something that you're fearful of, you're much better served for yourself if you get in now, if you start learning programming or cybersecurity now, because you don't want to wait 1 year down the line, because things are, if we're really going to a recession, things are going to be a lot worse in a year from now. And then if you're starting from there, it's going to take you a year from that. So I would say that if this is something that you're fearful of, you're way better served to, even though it might be a little scary, just take the plunge and get started before things get really bad.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I've always been the type of person that, like, as soon as I start pushing something off, it usually tends to be something I never end up getting to, right? It just makes it harder and harder. So, for not just even if it's not learning how to code, if it's just anything you want to do in life, I always said, like, if it's something that's important to you, don't push it off. Get to it as soon as you can, because if not, you're just going to make it harder for yourself in the future.
Yeah, like how many times have you started? I mean, I'm sure everyone's had that experience, especially programmers, right? You start this project, you're so psyched about it in the beginning, and you're in the beginning, you keep building on it, you keep working on it, and then you take like a week off, and then the week turns into a month, and then before you know it, it's an abandoned project, right?
Yeah.
So if you have that momentum right now, if you're watching Josh's channel, that means that really tells us a lot about you, right? It tells us that you're someone that is, interested in learning this. You have momentum right now because let's face it, it's Memorial Day. You're on a holiday, you're watching a channel about programming and you're watching this about cybersecurity as well, maybe. That's really good momentum that you have. What you want to do is you want to maintain that momentum. You don't want to drop that project and let it collect dust. So definitely the way you do that is to keep taking action and not allow yourself to go long periods of time without taking action, basically. But
touche. When you said you take a 1 week break from a project and you come back, yeah. So I don't know if I'm sure some other people in here, Cody might have probably been through this a couple times. You come back to that project like a week or two later, and you're like, "Fuck, I forgot everything."
Yeah,
all this code. I don't even know what any of this stuff's doing. I didn't leave comments. I was being not the smartest developer at the time, and then it just gets 10 times harder if you were just, hey, let me just keep going, moving, and finishing with it. It would have been a lot easier. JCL asks, is blockchain development better to get into or cybersecurity? Okay, well, there's cybersecurity for blockchain, right?
Yeah.
So, like, basically, that we can't really answer that question because they're like you need blockchain needs cybersecurity like a baby needs milk, all right? And in fact, it needs it terribly. It needs it terribly right now more than probably ever. Ryan, do you remember when we were going and looking at some of those bug bounties that they had payouts for? I mean, there were some of them that were like they were offering just like $1 or $2 million of like stable coin to fix a bug, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically to answer this question, it's kind of similar to asking, is food or water better for you? It's like, yeah, you need both, right? Yeah. So you have to, in order for Web3 to grow and to be utilized, people have to be building stuff for it, right? But you also have to make sure that those things are secure. I mean, I don't even have to really speak on everyone here that knows anything about Web3 probably knows how devastating these hacks have been to these projects when these major hacks have been discovered. And so, yeah, I think that you need both 100%. Now, in terms of what's better for you, I mean, it really depends on what your interests are. And actually, not really on the Web3 side, but that is exactly why Josh and I created this course with the Web2 and security, right? Because there's a lot of people who are probably weighing that right now, and they're wondering, I want to get into tech, but what is better? Should I get into web development or should I get into web pen testing, right? Cybersecurity. And, maybe down the line, I mean, no huge spoilers here, but maybe down the line there will be a course with me and Josh with blockchain development and blockchain security. But yeah, I think that the best way to figure that out for yourself is try a little of both, right? Build the thing, find out what some vulnerabilities are, and then try and break the thing, try and hack the thing. And that's exactly what we're doing in this course, real world code and real world pen testing, where we're building the thing and then we're hacking the thing. So a great way to get experience on both sides and see what's better for you.
Yeah. And another thing to note about that is like, and Ryan, I was also telling you about this yesterday, if you remember, but like a lot of people have been asking me lately the same question, other than what language do I start out with, which they're like, and these are usually younger people. Hey, I see that these salaries in Web3, either if it's for, a smart contract auditor or if it's for like Solidity development, these salaries, like they can't be real, right? Like $900,000 a year of salary, or like several $1 million to go and scope out one bug in a contract. They're like, should I just start immediately getting back into Web3 or getting into Web3? If you were younger, Josh, would you have started doing that? Yeah, of course I would, guys. Like, of course I would. It would make no sense not to, but like, you can't learn anything about Web3 if you don't know the fundamentals first, right? Like Web3 is basically built on top of, really kind of parallel to, but also on top of Web 2. So if you don't know and understand how Web 2, how to deploy an application and all that stuff in general.
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to learn React before you know JavaScript. That's exactly what it is, basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's not to say that you guys have to go and spend like 10 years learning Web 2 stuff, right? But you should learn the fundamentals, and maybe you don't go build, crazy Web 2 applications. Maybe you just learn the fundamentals and then you say, okay, I understand enough. Now I can move forward into Web 3.
I mean, make no mistake, like, I'm sure most of the best developers on the blockchain side know how to build websites and things like that. They know the building blocks of the internet.
Yeah.
They know all of those things, right? And, if you guys would just think, of all the projects that on the Web3 side, right? All the different cryptocurrencies, DeFi platforms, all of that, right? Oh, pretty much all of them have some website, have some kind of web interface, right? If you're doing some DeFi, there's probably a web application you're doing that through, and like any web application, that is prone to vulnerabilities, web vulnerabilities, right? So even if we went to a completely like Web3 world where everything was Web3, there was no Web 2 anymore, these vulnerabilities that you would learn about in real world pen testing, or learning this stuff on your own, however you decide to do it, that will come up. That will still be relevant in a Web3 world. And similarly, of course, building those websites will still be relevant. And someone that has knowledge of the blockchain, back-end development, coupled with, how to integrate it with the front-end web app to make it a full-on web application that utilizes the blockchain, that's going to be an extremely valuable skill. Just like, you could just be a front-end developer, or you could just be a back-end developer, but if you're a full-stack developer, then that's even more value. So it's the same thing here. You could just be a blockchain developer, or you could just be a front-end developer, but if you have both skill sets, you are worth that much more in the marketplace. And like we were saying earlier, when things are so uncertain as they are now with the economy and things like that, you want to make yourself as skilled as possible and as attractive to the marketplace as you can, because that's going to help you find that job and maintain it even through all this craziness.
Yep. Yes, sir. He also asked, is there no way to super chat? Weird. Nope. Don't have 1,000 subs yet, but you, my friend, you can help us get there if you click the subscribe button. If you're not already subscribed, I don't know. Cody Moose says, just heckin' sign up. Yes, bro. Just heckin' sign up. And as Kyle W said, subscribe. Yeah, guys, please subscribe if you're getting something out of this. Python is also pretty easy. Yeah, Python's not too bad to start with. And Ruthless also said, okay, we'll do even if the younger part may not apply that much. Yeah, I mean, dude, the age doesn't matter as long as you're not 90.
Oh, yeah.
We've had older guys come and do it before, people in their 40s, so it's not that big of a deal. And he says, I live in Argentina. It's more about independent from the peso and earn in dollars, so not worry about inflation, the economy, political shit. Yep. Yeah, dude, we get it, man. And that's the good thing about this industry is it's really not location dependent. It might have been like 10 years ago. It didn't need to be 10 years ago, but it might have been more location dependent than it is now. But the cat's out of the bag, and we're living in in the information age. So this is the one thing that you can do. It's great. I get to learn all over again every time I pick it back up. Oh, Python? Yeah. Trying to get directly into Web3 from zero is like trying to get on a motorcycle that's going 6 miles per hour without stopping it. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Like, I'm talking about myself here. It would have been hard for me to learn all the things I've learned in Web3 if I didn't know anything about just like general programming, right? It probably would have taken me like 10 times as long than it would if you just learn the fundamentals and then you go from there. MC says, do full stack devs make more than web devs? Well, I on average, I'm going to say like the people that have those two titles, yeah. But there most certainly are specific web devs who are making like $300,000 a year. I know one personally. You MC, you actually know that person personally too. You just don't know who it is and who I'm talking about. Yeah, TBK answered him, says, yeah, the company. So let's just say you're a front end web developer at Apple. You're probably, you've been there for over a year. You're probably raking in more than $300,000 a year, in total compensation. So there's plenty of like full stack level ones that are making, 100, 110, 115. So basically a third as much as that. What is the link to hack and sign up? You can either sign up on my site or on Ryan's, but the link for here, just go to developerdirection.com. And if you go to courses, it's the one real world code. And Ryan, what's your link?
Here, let me just, it's elevatescybersecurity.net /course detail. Yeah. I'll just message it to you on Telegram. You can post it here in a sec. Just continue on with the questions, I guess.
Max Dignita says that doesn't sound realistic. Oh boy. So yeah, guys, like the world's not going to end if you know the code. I'm just kidding. In all seriousness, though, to just double down on what I said at the beginning of the stream, like, yeah, if you're in IT, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be 100% bulletproof and you'll never have a problem with a job in your life. But the chances of you having problems either not getting fired or finding a job if you have the skill set, way less than if you were like working in retail or whatever. And on top of that, to add to that too, whether it's cybersecurity or software development, both those two things, you can choose to go your own path and not be employed by somebody else.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. That's a good point.
To me, that's the most important. That's the most important part of it for me. I know most people, or a lot of people, they don't feel that same way, but like, I was always the kind of person that like, if like a place is going to like tells me that they might have a risk of like having to fire a bunch of people because of, income, like at that point, what can you do about that? Right. I mean, you can do your best to be like way too valuable for the company to ever let you go. But if the company goes bankrupt, then, they're going to have to let you go anyway. At the very least, if you're doing your own thing, then you'll have work to do, right? And you'll have more work to do because you're going to have to be the one that has to go out there and secure these clients and get income, et cetera, et cetera. But at the very least, the power is like in your hands to do that. It's not up to someone else. So that's very important to me. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, if you could just put the link up real quick for the guy that asked. But yeah, what I would say is that as well, you can have your own freedom and be your own boss in this industry as well, in both of these industries, right? You could go to freelancing, for example. You could be a freelance web developer where you work for yourself and you just take you take contracts, build people websites or software, or you could do on the cybersecurity side, you could do freelance pen testing and stuff like that. That's actually kind of how I got started when I was in college. I did some some pen testing for developers and stuff that were building applications that I knew. So yeah, there's tons of ways where you can actually utilize this skill outside of just the traditional 9 to 5 as well. And by the way, if you really establish yourself as a freelancer, you can make even more money than people in their 9 to 5 jobs, without a doubt. So
yeah, or you can do both. You can double dip.
Yeah.
And speaking of Web3, since everyone can't heckin' stop talking about how much they got to get into Web3 ASAP, like if you guys go and look at the bounties for like on places like Gitcoin or any one of like the 500 different sites that are like basically clones of that now, probably like 60 or 70%, so more than half of these bounties, they're bug bounties in the smart contract. Yeah, the rest of them are development, but the development ones, it's probably going to be easier for them to fill. And if you ask my opinion, I think there's a lot less people who are actually good at auditing smart contracts than there are people who can write them. Well, at least not write them, period. To write them well, yeah. But why do you think that is, Ryan? Why do you think that there's like some of those bounties for getting those bugs in the audits for a smart contract are so high?
Yeah, while I'm answering this, if you can just go to Immunify.com. That's the most popular Web3 bug bounty platform. You can pull it up on the screen so people can see while I'm talking over this. But basically, anytime we're talking price, right? Not to get too like economical here, but anytime we're talking about price with something, it's really like, what is the value that it provides? What is it worth to them, to the market, right? So for these companies, like we were saying earlier on the stream, the Web3 projects that have gotten hit with those hacks have been, maybe he'll be back in a second, but the ones that have been hit with these hacks, it's been absolutely devastating to the project. In many cases, these things like never saw the light of day again, right? Everyone lost trust in the currency or the platform. No one used it again, right? So it takes a lot for them to even get there in the first place, right? It takes a lot of funding, venture capital, and all of that stuff to get to the point that they're at, right? And in a heartbeat, in an instant, they can lose everything. So that is what is at stake for them if they are not properly secured, if they're not properly hardened against security threats. So because of that, that is why they're willing to pay such a high bounty. Because even a bounty of like, say, $1 million or $2 million, right? That's absolutely nothing compared to how much money they would lose if they don't catch the vulnerability, right? If a black hat hacker finds it first, right? That's going to be, looks like Josh, he's coming back in. But yeah, that's the reason why, because essentially if they, it pales in comparison to what they would have to pay otherwise. So it ends up being a good trade-off to them. And at the same time, for all the testers out there, it does give them more of a reason to look into this stuff, right? So many people are flooding into the Web3 cybersecurity space, but similar to what Josh was saying earlier, you don't just start with Web3 development, but you don't just start with Web3 pen testing either. It's really important to have a solid security understanding before you just jump into the smart contract security stuff as well. And that's where, once again, coming down to the fundamentals is really helpful. So just getting started with anything in cybersecurity, like, web app pen testing and stuff, is a great start before you dive into these Web3 smart contract auditing stuff. It's going to be really helpful.
I have no idea what the hell just happened. Anyway, I'm back here. I got the site pulled up.
Nice.
Here we go. So let's check this one out. I didn't even know this one existed.
Yeah,
Web3
this is the one
bug.
this is the one everyone's talking about on Twitter.
Okay. So if you go in here,
yeah, maybe you actually have to register an account to see the bounties. Oh, no, there you go. See, rewards up to 10 million. 10
million, 10 million, 6 million, 5 million,
Yeah.
5 million. Explore all bounties.
There's a lot of big projects on here.
A wormhole. That makes sense. MakerDAO. Olympus. Okay. Look at that. 3,330,000. Good grief. Okay, yeah, there's quite a bit.
Yeah, I featured this on my channel as well. and have a YouTube video on it. But yeah, basically what I was telling him, Josh, is that, you know, the reason they're willing to pay this much is even though these numbers might seem crazy, they're still getting a huge deal if a white hat hacker finds this versus if a black hat hacker does, and then their entire business is toast, right? They would lose so much more money than 6 million, 10 million. In a lot of cases, like, these things are heavily funded, like in the billions of dollars, you know, millions and millions of dollars, right? So if they actually got hacked, then they would lose a lot more money than that. So that's why they're willing to pay such a high amount to incentivize people as well.
We've seen it happen too, right?
So many
Solana
times.
wormhole, that was 300 million. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I guess they figured it's better to pay like 20 million, 30 million now than lose 300 million. Max says, sounds like freelancing keeps you on your toes better than traditional wage. Yeah, I would say so. Here's a question for you, Ryan. MC says, do you think, or I have a friend who is in cybersecurity, and he said you need a bachelor's degree or a certification. So do you recommend a cert for cybersecurity, question mark?
If you don't have a degree, it could be helpful, but I mean, you don't have to have either of those things. And really the whole point of that is to help get your foot in the door, right? Get past the HR filter, but there's a lot of ways that you can do that, right? If you can network, you go to a conference, you network with someone, that's a great way to get past that HR filter. But basically, you know, as long as you have the skill set, that's going to be the most important part. And then how to market yourself so that people know that you have the skill set, obviously. But are there some companies that will say, oh, you don't have a bachelor's degree, so we're not going to hire you? Yeah, of course, right? Same thing with web development. There are some of those like boomer companies that would have that mindset. But here's the thing. You don't have to have 100 companies say yes. You just need one to say yes. So if one will say yes, and I guarantee you there are companies out there, both in web development and cybersecurity, that will not care that you don't have a bachelor's degree or won't care that you don't have a certification. Like, I don't have any certifications yet personally. And it's never been an issue for me. And I know that there's a lot of people that I personally know that do not have a bachelor's degree, and in some cases don't have either of those things, and they are really established in the field. So you're going to find those companies that will say yes. And yeah, that's all that really you need to be concerned with, really.
Yeah, most that's for, like, you know, the first time around, or if you're really young. It's as soon as you have like a couple years of experience on your resume and you have some good things you can put there that makes you stand out, they suddenly stop caring about where you went to school, or even if you did, or what kind of like certification you have. So
yeah, that's a really good point, because the experience is a really big deal to any company. Even if you do have the degree, the fact that, you know, if you have experience, that's always that weighs, to be honest, that is a much bigger weight than the degree or the certification. Is what kind of experience do you have? How much experience do you have? And that is a huge challenge for so many people, myself included, when I was first getting started, is, well, how do you get this job that requires experience if you don't already have experience? And that was the reason that Josh and I created this course, because this is a way where the whole entire training ground's already built out for you. You got your developers, you got your pen testers, and everything's set up for you to have absolute real world experience before you even have to worry about how many resumes did Kyle send out when he was looking for his job? Like 700 something.
Yep.
This guy, there's a guy in the community, Kyle W, sent over 700 applications out, right? So what we're allowing you guys to do is get experience in cybersecurity, in web development, without, you know, before you have to send out all those, you know, all those interview or resumes out there, right? Before you have to apply to all those jobs, you could get experience this 100% real world. And not only that, you'll also see, is this something that I'll even like, right? Because I think we're saying this earlier, but, you know, if you went to college, maybe you did go to college, and you're watching the stream right now because you're like, I went to school for like finance or whatever, and I absolutely hate it. It sucks. I spent 4 years going to college for this thing, and I don't even like it, right? So this is another way that you can see, you know, within these 5 weeks, is this something that you could see yourself doing as a profession before you sink all these years into it, right?
Yeah, that's pretty important too, because, you know, I could probably say at least maybe half of the people that I graduated with aren't working in IT or as a developer at all. And
Same.
they spent 4 or 5 years of their life getting that degree. God knows how much money, well over $100,000. And, they don't have anything to show for it. And the reason for that is because, just like Ryan was saying earlier, there's a lot more people that have these fancy degrees and these titles than there are people who have actual experience and can actually code and actually do a good job. So it doesn't fucking matter if you have a degree. It doesn't really matter what certs you have, unless, like, by law. So, for example, to be a brain surgeon, you have to have a doctorate in probably several things, right? To be a lawyer, you have to pass the bar exam. And you can't even take the bar exam unless you have a law degree. So by law, you have to go do those things. But in this case, you don't have to. And there's a lot less people with good experience and who have good skill set than people who have these fancy degrees. Because for all intents and purposes, like, you could just really, when you get a degree, you're really just, at this point, you're just paying for it. Because I don't know if you saw some of the stuff that Nick, you remember OG Nick?
Yeah.
He just got a job. He just got a job at the Senate. I was bragging about him earlier, but
nice.
I don't know if you ever saw when he was coming in the webinars, some of the stuff he was doing for his final classes.
Oh, yeah, that's
science.
crazy. Yeah, Michigan, right? Yeah.
Good grief, dude.
That's insane.
That blows my mind. Max says $1 million for prevention beats $100 million of cure. Yeah, that is true. Can you share the web? The bigger the reward probably. Can you share the web? The bigger the reward probably will be a good project to pay attention to. I think I'm missing context at that. Maybe he was asking Max for this link. I'm not sure.
Oh, the website he means. Yeah. Immunify.
Yeah. Yep. 5 weeks of your time is a small price to pay for a lucrative field that's right for you. Yeah, it's true. And at the very least, you didn't spend $100,000 in 5 years of your life going to get a degree. So, all right, guys, I think that just about wraps it up. So yes, again, we're closing 9, 10, 11, 12. So about 3 hours my time, the course is going to close. If I'm being honest, you guys, it might actually already be closed, or it might be closed a couple hours after, because I had to use Epoch Time Translator for how we have the button turned on and off. So it might be a little bit on or off, but that's all I got to say. Ryan, you got any final words, man?
Yeah, I mean, if in that case, if there is some kind of issue like that and you can't buy it on his, you can just go over to my site. Maybe you can pin that in the comments or something, or in the description, Josh, for everyone watching here. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Just so you guys know, it does not matter at all if you buy it through me or buy it through Josh. So yeah, if there's any issues, then mine is open as well. So hope to see you guys there for sure.
All right, guys. As always, learn to code, learn to change your attire, self-custody your crypto. Just do it, like Nike.